It's the SEGAbits Swingin' Report Show. Get ready as we celebrate the year of the Sega console. Hello and welcome to episode 55 of the SEGAbits Swingin' Report Show. I'm Barry and
live from your grave,
it's George.
Hi, or Kapow.
Kapow, the Shenmue 3 of the second best thing to Shenmue 3, and he actually appeared. We also are joined by our new partners, partner site Segalization. We have Draikin, I hope I'm saying that right.
Yeah, that's right.
And InTheSky, who's also has other names. What would you like to be referred to?
InTheSky was an ace pronunciation. Sorry that my Skype account is under like Ocean View, but yeah, InTheSky is totally fine. Thanks.
I'm gonna call you Sky Guy.
Sky Guy is. I'll take all the nicknames.
Okay, cool. Well, first off, I just want to thank you guys for joining us, and I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do in the future together. But before we,
sounds fun.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. You're I believe the second partner site to join up with us, but really the first one that didn't have any real ties with SEGAbits. Website of the Dead was a little pet project from Patrick.
That's Cody Maru's thing?
Yeah, that's his thing. So, and we have some other ones on the horizon, but I don't really want to talk about that right now, nor is that the focus of this show. But before we get into Segalization, I just wanted to go around the table and bring back an old classic of the Swingin' Report Show, what we've been up to and what we've been playing, and I always ask George first.
Oh, me
first?
first?
Yeah.
Why do I have to go
You've
first?
You've been gone for about 8 months, so you got a lot of stuff to tell us.
I've been sleeping. I've been going to the restroom sometimes. Not a lot, but normal cycles maybe.
Okay.
No, I've been working on some projects, but mostly for like a club thing we were doing.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing this club thing for the college thing, and I'm in charge of some of the stuff, and I don't really like it because I've noticed that people in real life, it's easier to tell people what to do online because you don't have to hear them whine about it afterwards.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, when you tell them in real life, oh man, you got to hear a whine fest for like a week. So I've been dealing with that, and what I've been playing this new game I got. They were giving out for free, the developers on Steam.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to see what it's called. I don't even know what it's called. PID. And I've been playing League of Legends. That's about it.
Cool.
League of Legends takes up too much of my time, I think, if I do play games.
That's what happened.
45 minutes a match.
Wow.
It's like, that's too much for me, man.
Wow.
But I'm addicted, so I have to play it.
Cool. And
my brother used to be really, really into League of Legends or whatever, and like, I think he thought about like getting into it competitively, or he thought it was fun and all that. But yeah, it's so big all over the place.
It's wild. I never get into that. I'm waiting for PSO2. I'm saving myself.
Oh, you're saving your online addiction.
My online virginity, yeah. Draikin, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've been up to and what you've been playing.
I think some people might know me from The Will of the Ancients. That's a pretty big Panzer Dragoon fan site that's been around for, I think, around 10 years now. So that's a pretty long time. Personally, I've been a Sega fan all the way back since the Master System. Currently, so I contribute a lot to the Will of the Ancients. Afterwards, I started Panzer Dragoon Revival. That's a petition website, basically, for where people can sign a petition to re-release the old Panzer Dragoon games. Mm-hmm. And right now, I'm working on Segalization, of course. I'm not sure. Maybe we can talk a bit about how we got around to creating the website and the campaign.
Yeah, we'll definitely get to that.
Not sure if there's anything more you want to.
I think that's a good introduction. We can definitely get into the Segalization stuff once we start into that. Have you been playing any games recently?
Actually, I ended up buying a 3DS XL.
Cool.
To play Bravely Default. So that's a game I started. It's actually the first Nintendo device I ever bought.
Wow.
Funny enough.
How do you feel about it? Like, how do you feel about the 3DS XL?
Well, actually, I own a PS Vita. I think technically the Vita is way more advanced, at least graphically, than the 3DS XL. So I'm not too impressed with the technical aspect, and I don't really like the 3D effect on they use. I usually just turn that off. I haven't really seen a game that really does the 3D effect well enough.
Mm-hmm.
Although the 3D classics from Sega recently, they actually handled the 3D aspect rather well.
Yeah, those are
I
really
have to
cool
admit.
releases. It's funny too that Sega's doing a better job at this than Nintendo.
Yeah,
Nintendo quit, I think, after just a handful of games.
Mhm.
Quitters.
Yeah,
definitely.
I just don't bother with the 3D
Yeah.
anymore, actually.
It drains
Yeah,
battery life too. So I'd rather have an
I
extra
think
day.
Yeah.
I think it's like with the television sets. 3D was really hyped a lot on LCD TVs,
Hmm.
but I really don't think, and in cinema as well. But personally, I never really liked the effects. I think I'm not sure if you guys heard about the Oculus Rift
Oh, Oculus
or
Rift.
the Oculus
Yes,
Rift, I
yes.
think it is. So I think that's way more interesting than the 3D effect we're used to seeing now. I think
Yeah.
the actual VR headsets. I think that's really interesting for the
As
future. So I'm
opposed
really
to
looking
like
forward.
a slightly more expensive movie ticket
Hmm. Yeah,
for a
true.
3D film, I guess.
Cool. Well, regardless of the 3D, there's a lot of games on there that are well worth playing. It's probably my favorite Nintendo
Oh yeah.
thing that they've done. It's so funny. They suck at home consoles recently, but they're really good at handhelds. I think I've been impressed with them since the Game Boy Advance SP. So, in the sky, why don't you tell a little bit about yourself and what you've been playing?
All right. So, I just wanted to touch on something really fast. The fact that this is all working out is kind of amazing because I'm from Hawaii and Draikin's from Belgium, and Barry, you're East Coast,
That's right.
right? And where are you, George?
He's West Coast.
Okay, so this is all over the place. This
Yeah.
podcast, it's kind of amazing. But yeah, one thing that I'm actually pretty excited about is I go to the gym like twice a week, and not even for that much. And I'm not even like a pump iron, like really serious like protein shake guy, but I've been trying to run more and like get faster and everything. And I always go for these like 20 minute runs at a time. And I've been getting close to, I think it's, uh, or yeah, I've been hitting 2.5. Oh, I don't even know the unit. I think it's 2.5
Mhm.
meters or like kilometers or something. I have no idea. Kilometers and meters way different, but like 2.5 whatever the unit is on the
Mhm.
treadmill in 20 minutes, and that's taken me months and months and months and months. So I've been pretty happy with that recently. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm from Hawaii. I'm really happy with that gym stuff recently, and I guess as far as my stuff, my adventure with Sega, I'm very very
Mhm.
recent as a Sega recruit. Right around the time that I became a Sega fan was right around the same time that I started visiting SEGAbits. So it was like the early part of like
Okay.
2012, I think, when Project Cross Zone was first being teased.
Mhm.
And I came from that like being aware of like Bandai Namco stuff and Capcom stuff, but there were all of these things that I wasn't really familiar with on the Sega side. So I started to research a little bit more about the franchises, and then over time, I got further and further down the rabbit hole, and then all of a sudden, here I am. And like I wasn't, I mean, I wasn't completely in the dark. I used to play like a bunch of Sonic titles and stuff. I played all of the like the adventure era things up until Shadow the Hedgehog, and then I finally got back into it with Generations.
Hmm.
So like I haven't been completely in the dark, but yeah, it took a while for me to get here. Um, as far as games, a while ago I beat I mean on the note of 3DS stuff, I beat Link
Okay.
Between Worlds, and I was pretty happy with that. I didn't think it was quite like Game of the Year, or like a lot of
Mhm.
people seem to think it was, but I thought it was a pretty good effort. So yeah, I was happy with that. What else? Um, Coincidentally, with a Segalization, I'm right at the end, I believe, of Sakura
Mhm.
Wars 5. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, just the way everything seems to be set up and the drama where I'm at right now seems to suggest I'm at the end. So that's pretty exciting. So I think that about covers it for me so far
Very
as what I'm
cool.
playing right now.
So what do you think about Soccer Wars 5? Like, have you played the first four?
Oh no, I haven't. I mean, I wish. Yeah, I mean, over time, I wish I stuck with learning Japanese because I took Japanese just like at the bare minimum in high school. Like, I only took it for the 2 years, and then I ended up switching schools, and partially because I wanted to take other classes, and also because like I thought the curriculum change was just gonna be all weird, and like I was gonna be at a different level from the other students. I decided to switch, or I decided to drop learning Japanese, but I wish I stuck with it so that I could like play through like the older games and stuff. But yeah, I hear the
Mm.
older games were like really really good. As far as the fifth one itself, I like it a lot actually. One thing that I really like about the Soccer Wars series is the music. I mean, a lot of Sega games have like really good music, but this game in particular really captures the era that they were going for. It's sort of jazzy and it's really upbeat a lot of the time. So yeah, I liked it. I mean, it's very straightforward. It's like an optimistic anime game and stuff, but it's a fun game to play, and the
Cool.
strategy parts are really interesting too.
And I have been just doing SEGAbits stuff, going to work, all that fun stuff. I got back from my local game store,
Yeah.
and they were doing a Angry Video Game Nerd autograph signing. So he and Mike were there. It was pretty cool. Yeah, there was not as long a line as I was expecting, but which was good because I got to wait inside instead of outside in the cold. I got him to autograph volume one of his DVD, and they also had Fester's Quest sitting out for $5, so I grabbed that off the shelf and had him sign it. And I picked up some games. I got Space Harrier for the 32X for $20, and I got NFL Quarterback Club just because it was for 32X, just because it was complete with the plastic case for $5. And yeah, it was fun. I actually like whenever you go to those autograph things, you're like, oh, should I say something or should I just go through the motions and get the autograph and be done? So
You should have given
I
him
mean,
criticism right there,
like,
right in
look, I
front of
like.
everybody.
Oh my God. Well, you see,
Or
here's the
you
thing.
should have like hugged him or
I like
something.
video games and all that, but I'm not a big fan of like the whole convention scene. I like going to them, but I'm like I just completely shut down when I go to those. I'm like quiet, walking around. I just look at what I want to look at and then I leave. Because there's I don't know. It's just there's this kind of like this personality type at a lot of these shows where it's like people who are really loud and they want to tell you their opinion, and then it's like if you're holding something they'll stop you and be like, oh, hold on, I know that it's not a very good game, but you know what, the SNES version is actually it's quite enjoyable. And I say quite because actually for 6 reasons. And they'll like I don't know. And I'm like, dude, I'm just buying it because it looks fun. I do have opinions, but I honestly don't really need to share them with you right now. Um, so, and it kind of smelled. Some of the people smelled, but overall it was fun. Lots of people there. I did mention to James that I'm sure he didn't give a shit, that we are going to be hosting our own panel at Too Many Games. And I mainly asked that because told him that because I wanted to know when his panel
Oh wow.
was because I didn't want to go up against it and not have anyone come to ours. Uh, and he laughed. Well, because I said, "Do you know when
What
it
do you
is?" Because
say?
I'm hosting a Sega panel and I really want people to come. I don't want, but I got a picture that I'm going to add onto the Instagram of myself and him. It's a very rare selfie of me going up. I guess it's not a selfie if someone takes it of you, right? I don't know what the no. Um, so yeah, but overall it was fun. I also got in the mail Sega Pico game from Japan. It's Sonic's Game World, an import, and it comes in the original box. It looks like, I don't know if you're familiar with the old VHS cases for Disney movies, but it's kind of like that. It's pretty cool. I've never seen a case like this, so it was $30 on eBay. I figured I'd get it. It has some material in it that they didn't put in the US version. Like there's a whole casino floor. So I guess they didn't want kids on a Sega Pico learning how to play slots. Uh, it's okay in Japan. Well, that's the funny thing.
But it's
They
okay in
gave
Japan.
the
That's the thing.
Americans. I think it was. I don't think it. Yeah, it was released in Europe too. They gave the West a coloring book, and they gave the Japanese a casino. So take that, take that what you will. But let's get right into the
There you
the
go.
main event, Segalization. Do you guys want to talk about the inception, some of your goals with this site, and just dive right into it?
Yeah, sure. Actually, Draikin, I think, takes more credit for this than I would, to be honest. Because, well, yeah. I mean, how about you explain it, and then I'll say how I kind of come into it later on.
All right. So basically, I think the whole thing first started on the official Sega forums. We at the time, I think, well, in recent years, Sega haven't been localizing a lot of their games. I think we've seen a bit of a change in the way the company handles the different regions. So the impression I get is that they're really focusing on Japan and the rest of the world, and they really seem to be treating them as two very different regions. We can see that in the way that their official websites, basically, if you look at the games shown on their official websites, they're really based outside of Japan. They're really focusing on their the Sonic franchise, of course. That's really big. Their RTS games from their UK development studios. So we have Total War and Company of Heroes now. There's also the Aliens franchise, and you have Football Manager, but that's really big in Europe. But that's really their main focus now outside of Japan, and inside in Japan, they really have a lot of other different titles like Yakuza series. I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And of course, Valkyria Chronicles. But the thing is, the latest releases in those franchises, those games aren't being released, aren't being localized anymore. And there's plenty of other games that aren't being localized either. You have Fantasy Star Online 2. That's supposed to be localized still, but we really aren't hearing any news from it. So that's really been going on, and I really wanted to do something about that. So basically, we were talking on the Valkyria Chronicles forum on the official SEGA forums about creating a fan site to promote the game, to maybe get people interested again, get something going. But we were also basically the idea changed. So we basically, instead of just focusing on Valkyria Chronicles, we thought about trying to make a website that really focuses on all the different games that haven't been localized into English recently from Sega. So yeah, we basically InTheSky has basically been part of the project from very early on. Basically, when I basically proposed the idea to create a website for it, there were a couple of people who were interested in joining the project, but it was mainly InTheSky that really helped me create the website, create articles for it. So basically, it's an idea that's really been growing. We've really just set up the website. We've added forums. We've added a petition where people can. So if people can sign a petition to try and convince Sega to release more games, to localize more games from that they've only released in Japan so far. So basically, that's basically where we're currently at. We basically want to promote those games a bit more, get people interested in those games, and hopefully convince Sega to localize more of their games. I think recently, in the past year, we've only really seen one game being localized, and that was Project Diva F from Sega. So that's one exception to the rule, basically. Of course, it's a pretty small game, and we'd love to see them focus on bringing more games from Japan.
That was kind of a strange announcement too, if you think about it. Like that was like one of the games I thought was never going to come to the United States, and there it goes.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I think it just has it's a niche game, so but it has a very dedicated fan base, I think. So I think when they first launched a Facebook campaign to basically they asked people to like one of their posts on Facebook to see what kind of reaction they'd get, and I think it got around 20,000 likes. So that's actually pretty big for a small game like that. And of course, the game itself is rather easy to localize. It really doesn't have a lot of content that needs to be translated or such. They don't really need voice actors, so all the songs were still in Japanese. So I think it was a pretty low risk game for them to localize. So it makes sense that this was the game they chose to localize.
Another Japanese title that was recently localized was Demon Tribe, which released back in November, and it's actually slated to be killed off at the end of March. They're shutting down the servers. I don't know, maybe it could be that it was more the Japanese side of things that killed it, because I don't know how they would have gauged the American, I guess, sales. It was a free game, freemium. Yeah. So I don't know. It might have been more of a Japanese side of things than American, and they just decided to shut it all down. But you look on the iTunes store, and I think they have reviews in the single digits, which is pretty low for a game from Sega like that. I mean, even I think lesser titles like some of the Prope games have more reviews, like Tap the Bear to Make Him Stand Up, you know. But I was going to mention too, you guys also back other campaigns. I know you have backed the PC campaign. Do you want to talk? I know that's not your campaign, but if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, basically, for me personally, I think the idea of bringing those games to PC, it really appeals to me, because it just makes so much sense to have those games available on digital platforms like Steam. I think if you look at the situation, I think the release of Metal Gear Rising, it was really successful, the release of the PC version, and I think that has a lot to do with the price point they released the game at. I think actually it was probably mostly that. So they basically had a deal running. If you pre-order the game, you could get it for like I think around 15 euros. I think it was around $20 or something, and that's pretty cheap for a new release, even if it's on PC. And I think and it was rather successful, I think. And basically, that gave people the idea, well, if since Metal Gear Rising is a Platinum Games game, they also, I think it made people make the connection. So why not release Bayonetta and Vanquish, which are also games from Platinum Games on the PC. And I think that's what got people thinking into making a campaign around that. And I think there was a pretty big response to the first thread from grief.exe. So the person that started the campaign, he really got a pretty big response when he launched the campaign. It really caught on, and I think it just caught on simply because it made a lot of sense to people to have those games available on PC. And I think, and Sega recently they've been doing rather well on PC as well. So I think it would be great to see them release more of the game. They have so many games that aren't available on PC right now. I think it would be great to see those released on Steam.
You know how in the West we have the Sonic franchise, we have the RTS games, and I mean those are proven successes. They're selling well. I mean, and I know there's also a subsect of Sega fans who really like the old days. They like the Japanese games, and they look at stuff like the real-time strategy games of Sonic, and they go, well, fuck those. I don't want to see those released ever again. I'd rather see Sega pour their money into, you know, reviving old franchises, things like that. I mean, just for me personally, where I come from, if it's a good game and it's selling well, I'm all for Sega releasing that. So when it comes to bashing the Sonic titles or the Creative Assembly or Relic games, I can't jump on that bandwagon. But I mean, what I appreciate from you guys is that, and you, I mean, maybe you don't share this opinion, maybe you do, but that there can be this kind of this other pillar of Sega where it's the more obscure Japanese titles, and I know we see that in companies like Atlas, who Sega actually acquired. And I mean, ideally, I'd love it if Sega was the company that released, you know, the Sonic games, the Western titles from studios that they owned, and the more obscure Japanese titles. And we're seeing it a bit more, but like the games you've listed, I'd definitely love to see this other pillar rather than taking away from other fandoms and saying, you know what, you guys aren't getting a Sonic game because Sega's going to be releasing because I don't think that's how it works, you know.
And also, Sega paid more for Atlas's parent company than they paid for all three developers right now that they have in the UK. You know, Sports Interactive and Creative Assembly. So that's strange considering that Creative Assembly and all those probably sell more games than Atlas do. Just like in one title.
Well, the thing is, they actually ended up acquiring Index Corporation entirely. So
so it's more than just Atlas.
So I think that's definitely a factor there. And well, I'm not sure. All in all, it was a pretty big investment for them. But I think Atlas has been really successful. It's actually kind of odd. They've been really successful in localizing smaller titles. So so we're not really sure what Sega intends to do with them. Do they intend to use them to localize their own games, or are they basically going to be using the same strategy and keeping the Atlas games in Japan as well? At the moment, it seems Atlas is just continuing business as usual. So they're really still operating.
Though it did take
from Sega, it seems.
The Creative Assembly a little time before they really started developing Sega titles and doing more work in that sense. So maybe that's just more like finish up what you're doing now. And I mean, the same thing's happening too with Lucasfilm and Disney, where there was a year where they acquired them, but it was kind of same old. And now a year later, we're seeing all the changes going into effect.
To maybe you said you talked about the games that have been released by Creative Assembly and such. I really agree that we shouldn't really be looking at you have some fans that really refuse to play games that have been released by external studios or studios that Sega have bought. But I also tend to agree that's rather silly. We should be looking at those games as being something non-Sega. So eventually, it's Sega's money that's been used to create those games. So we shouldn't really be looking at those games that have been released by studios that Sega has acquired as the enemy or something. And that's a bit unfortunate, I think. I think people really need to really need to realize that Sega is a business. And they need to make money. And what they're doing now basically makes sense simply because their games haven't been selling all that well. So when we're asking them to localize their games, we really want to support them as well. I think that's something that's pretty important. I think that's something that fans really need to realize, that they really need to support Sega when they do bring games over from Japan. And that's something I think that we've been doing, but we've not been doing enough.
Would you say that for your campaigns, would you make concessions and say, well, okay, if you bring this game to the West, we'll take it digitally. It doesn't even need to be a packaged release. I mean, because we're getting into that phase now where instead of them making a stockpile of games and then saying, "Oh, guys, look, it didn't sell," they can essentially not even have a single copy produced and just put the effort into localizing it.
Yeah, I'm a really big fan of that type of. I think you have some fans that really say, "Oh, if it's not retail, if it's digital only, then I'm not buying it." I think that's amazingly silly, because they'd rather not play the game at all than get it digitally. And the thing is, digitally it just makes sense for games, especially smaller games, to be released digitally. I can understand that people would prefer a retail version, but honestly, I think I'd rather have a digital version than no version at all, basically.
I used to be one of those guys that only wanted physical copies, and I have almost 200 games on my Steam account, so I guess I could shut up about that now.
Yeah, but it's just. That's a good point, because Steam has really shown the advantage you can get, has shown how much the price can be lowered by having digital versions. The thing is, it doesn't really cost them money to sell more digital versions. They don't need to make extra copies. They're just always available. So that's why prices on Steam sales can be so low at times. I've bought great games for about €1 or something. It's really ridiculous. I've got a lot of games on my Steam account as well, and that's what's so good about digital versions. And that's what's also unfortunate. If you look at for example, the situation with Valkyria Chronicles 2, so that's available digitally on PSN. For the PSP, it's about €10. I think it's maybe $15 or something. It's a pretty low price for a game like that, even if it's maybe not the best in the series. But that's still a really low price, and yet Sega hasn't made it available for the PS Vita for some reason. So in Europe you can buy it on PSN using your PS Vita, but if you try to buy it in the US, you can't even see the game, and that's really unfortunate to see Sega not really try to push those games, try to sell those games. Try to make people more aware that those games can be bought digitally. I think that's an area they really could improve in, and there's a lot of sales potential there.
I think Sega is a little backwards on some stuff. They released in October they released out of nowhere the House of the Dead Overkill, the Typing of the Dead. Yeah. But they didn't re-release the freaking one, the second one, even though there's already a PC port. All they had to really do was put it into Steam. But they didn't do it, which is strange. And a lot of people on NeoGAF, I think, were complaining about that. They wanted the part 2 Typing of the Dead. And they never did it. I'm surprised. I mean, all they really had to do was put it on Steam, basically, and just put the DRM that Steam uses. But I guess that's lost sales right there. But I like that. I like when they do little stuff like that where you don't expect it and it just comes out. Like I'm a
That's
big fan of
why
Typing Dead, so I'm kind of mad about
like
that.
with Phantasy Star Online 2's delay. I feel like that's one of those games that could happen. Like we'd be sitting here, we might get a little teaser, and we're like, oh, what's this? And then a week later, it's like Phantasy Star Online 2. Buy it now, or download it now.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
continually come out with content for that. So yeah, who knows how that what they might be planning.
well, they've always said they're still going to release the game. I think every official announcement we got from them, they always said, well, it's still on. We're still going to release the game. I think, well, I think a part of the problem is that I think with the previous Fantasy Star Online, they had difficulties bringing over the content sometimes from Japan. I think a game like that, it's pretty big, and I think people would be disappointed if they didn't support it 100% if they do release it over here. So maybe that's a reason for the delay or something.
That is true. I mean, we see the Creative Assembly handling the Aliens license, which Sega owns, so it could be that they're just waiting for the right moment, the right purchase to push that off onto a developer who has experience in that sort of thing. So that's a good point. I mean, I definitely believe that Relic rumor. That makes a lot of sense because Sega West, there's nothing. I don't think Sega of America has really anyone who can handle that sort of thing.
And the thing is, we've seen a number of we've seen that they've really been downsized. I think Sega of America and Sega Europe, I think they've lost a lot of resources in the last couple of years. I think that's really what also caused them to simply be able to release less games. If you look at Sega, they've really been trying to increase their profitability in recent years. So people say 2013 was a worse year for them, but if you look at it financially, they've made more money. So they've actually, their consumer business is actually doing better in 2013 than it was in 2012, simply because they cut the number of games. And yeah, that's unfortunate, but that's really the way it is.
I think it has a lot to do with the way Sega handles the way they bring games over. It just feels like they don't really hype up the games, some of them that they used to bring over. Like, I think one year they brought over, like, they did 20 games the whole year, and sometimes games would come out from Japan, and I wouldn't even know they came out till like 3 months later. Like, I think Sands of Destruction, that came out for the DS, they spent like almost a year reworking the game, making it easier. And then it comes out, and there was not even a blog post about it. I don't even think so, or a tweet about it. So it comes out, and I'm like 2 months later, I'm like, oh, it came out. Oh, I wanted to play it, but and I couldn't find it anywhere. So it's like, all right.
In the Sky, I wanted you to talk about how you got into Segalization.
Yeah. So it's interesting when I believe Draikin started floating this idea at around the summer of last year, or a little before the summer of last year. And yeah, he started talking about like a Valkyria Chronicles fan site, and how long ago Aaron Weber thought it was a cool idea and such. And I was actually initially like sort of or I wasn't opposed to it, but I was like, I don't think this is necessary. As like, I think that Sega already knows where the fans are coming from, and I was just like, yeah, I mean, I wasn't all that ecstatic about the idea at first, but over time, I don't know, I just started thinking about it, and the idea I sort of came to is just I couldn't, I mean, with the opportunity to help with that sort of project, like I couldn't come up with reasons why I shouldn't be involved, I guess is the right way to put it. I mean, I think it's pretty clear that Sega knows that, like there's like an audience for like a lot of these niche games and stuff. Like there are people who want to play like Valkyria Chronicles, and like people within Sega know that, people love all these games, like especially with Hatsune Miku, who has like broad appeal just outside of the games, but with like the concerts and such, like people who like cosplay and stuff like her and all that. But Yeah, so like as much as I used to like think that way and such, I just found it increasingly difficult to justify like not trying to help, like bring like a cohesive a cohesive frame for like all of these Japanese titles that we want to see brought west and stuff. So I was like, okay, yeah, why not be a part of that? So yeah, I mean, we started, yeah, Draikin and I started floating around ideas on like how we were going to structure this and like the petition, how we were going to do the petitions and such. And it finally launched, I think Thanksgiving weekend or so of last year. And yeah, since then we've just kept going. We talked to Operation Rainfall a while ago, and they were nice enough to they were nice enough to talk to us and stuff too. So that was really good of them. And yeah, I mean, so as much as I think that with the titles that we're talking about, uh, since they don't necessarily or they just don't perform as well or maybe as consistently as like Sonic or like the RTS games and stuff. I feel that they're more vulnerable with the way they're handled. We were talking a little while ago about blog posts or like getting the word out there. I mean, just to take an example, there's Resonance of Fate. Sega didn't develop that, but I mean they published it, and they came out with blog posts and stuff, and they advertised it a lot, and they came out with merchandise and stuff. But even little things sometimes, like it came out on the same time as Final Fantasy 13, and that is very rough competition. I mean, Final Fantasy 13 was a title that ended up doing quite a bit of harm, I guess, to the Final Fantasy name. But I mean, at the time, that's a bit rough for that. So yeah, I wanted to be a part of something that could continually like keep the banner flying for what I for titles that I feel are not just things that I like and stuff, but things that I feel are vulnerable and are quirky and cool.
What are your guys' plans for the near future with the site? Anything you can share in that regard?
Yeah, well, we have a bit of a secret agenda. We actually
Oh, cool.
just added something to our roster, actually. Yeah,
That's a very cool
it's
looking game. Yeah,
Puyo
yeah.
Puyo Tetris. Yeah, I actually I haven't played I think the only
Okay.
Puyo Puyo game I played was Mean Bean Machine. And it was on what was it? It was on one of the
The
collections on
Genesis. Oh
GameCube.
yeah, the Sega Genesis
Mm-hmm.
collections on the PS3 and Xbox. The physical release.
Or no, it was like I think it
Oh,
came with like one of
Sonic's
the like a
Ultimate,
Sonic
or no,
collection on GameCube or
I
something.
know
It had
Sonic,
like
the Mega
That
Collection.
too.
Actually, no, I can correct you
Fucking
right
Barry
now.
knows
It's
this.
the I'm looking at it. Sonic Mega Collection. Is that what it is?
Yeah,
I
something like
It's a
that.
I
fantastic
think
game. It
so. I
was my
can't
favorite game when I
exactly
was
remember, but
growing up,
yeah.
and it's interesting too. It's different. I mean, it's kind of a localization of a Japanese title, but it's very different in terms of the graphics and I think even the music. Um, but yeah, definitely, I've imported all of the Saturn and Dreamcast Puyo Puyo titles. They're a lot of fun, very very easy to play, despite the Japanese, which is why I think it would be a great game to localize, especially digitally. It seems like a perfect digital title. No, there's little story
Yeah.
modes, but it's really like,
Not
I
a lot
see
of
you're
things
here
to
to play
translate.
Puyo Puyo. Oh yeah, I am. Let's play. And they could probably, yeah, you can't beat me. Oh yes, I
You're
Yeah,
like
can.
you can't beat me.
Yeah,
Barry.
too good.
You're just with a
It's
tear.
deeper than
You're
Sonic
all the
Lost World.
story too good.
Yeah, yeah.
Way deeper. Um, I was gonna say, what games like personally, if you had to choose one game to localize, which ones would you choose and why?
Well, For me personally, I think at the it's basically the reason I started the website. It would be Valkyria Chronicles 3. Um, for me, the original Valkyria Chronicles was really what got me back into being a Sega fan. I hadn't really been following Sega the years before, I ended up buying a PS3 just to play Valkyria Chronicles, and I thought it's not a perfect game. I think it's a game that really would have fit well in the Sega that made when they were the Sega back when they were making their Dreamcast games. It really reminded me of that generation of games that like Skies of Arcadia and such. It's really original titles that just that blend gameplay from different genres and really do something new with it. And for me, I think it was really disappointing to see that Valkyria Chronicles 2 didn't sell well on the PSP, and maybe I think it could still be a success even now if they released Valkyria Chronicles 3 as a digital title on PSN.
Yeah, you also have to think about it. The PSP didn't really do that well in America, and it wasn't doing really that well in America. I think right when Sega Japan decided to move Valkyria Chronicles from like a console to the handheld, which I think in Japan it was a good decision, but like worldwide it was a bad decision. That kind of killed the steam it had in America.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, that's that was sort of rough. I mean, yeah, I basically agree. I mean, it made sense because like I mean, the PSP user base was super huge, and that was something that also happened, but like much later on with PSP in the West and stuff too. But that like there's such a like grand mythos around Valkyria Chronicles. I mean, it wasn't like a super it didn't like light up the charts or anything, but a lot of people knew about it and such. Like it got all these awards. A lot of people liked it critically and such, and so like the difference in like the development and I guess possibly like the aesthetic and tone differences could have it could have been a lot to stomach for a lot of people. And I mean, I guess you don't even know if everyone who had the PS3 has a PSP anyway. So that it's a bit jarring for something that for a franchise so early in its life. Yeah.
I also think that one of the biggest issues was that like Valkyria Chronicles 2, it was an okay game, but like it wasn't as good as the first one, and most of it was because of the limitation on the map. Like you had to like move sections of the map, and it was just kind of annoying. I think they kind of ruined the flow of the game. I think you should have just stuck with PS3. I wouldn't mind them bringing 3 over to like you said PSN or something, because I mean they've done it like with other portable releases. They've released them on consoles. Like I think Sony does it all the time with their Vita titles and PSP titles. And I think Ubisoft just did it with their Assassin's Creed game. That one that came out on Vita just came out on Steam like a few weeks ago.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I think Valkyria Chronicles is a good thing to. I mean, the third one I want to play it. So.
And they're also in Project Cross Zone. So.
Yeah, and it's regrettable. I think if you look at Valkyria Chronicles 3. It's closer to the first game than the second one, so I think it would appeal more to the fans of the first Valkyria Chronicles. So it's regrettable that it's simply not being localized, and I'm not sure if it's going to happen. I hope it still will. I know the thing is we've seen about 3 different companies state that they would like to localize a title, and apparently Sega's just not letting them. We know some companies have approached them, And I'm not sure what the problem is. Apparently, Sega doesn't want to let external studios handle the game. I'm not sure why. If you
Yeah, it's
look at
hard to say. I mean, it could be an internal thing. Do they like to keep was that part of the thing they mentioned with Yakuza 5? Like they like having as much oversight over the localization as process as possible? I believe that was one of the things they said.
I think it's one of the things. Sony has a new studio. I forgot the name now, but they've
No,
got a
yeah,
new.
third-party relations.
Yeah. So they've basically in an interview they mentioned how difficult it was to get developers to trust them actually to handle the localization for them. So maybe that's part of what makes it difficult for other companies to make a
Well,
deal with Sega to release their games.
Oh, curse you!
well,
I haven't
so
even read that one yet.
for
Oh wow.
Segalization, where can people find you online? Segalization.com. You're also on Twitter at Segalization, and you're also on. Are you
Hmm.
on Facebook?
Hmm.
Okay, Segalization as well. I'm sure it's a pretty
We're on
unique
Facebook, yeah.
term that no one else is going to take.
Yeah, yeah,
Very cool. We
yeah,
have the
yeah.
Segalization link up on our
True.
site, and I also wanted to announce too that the Will of the Ancients is joining us as a partner site. They just added. I just spoke with Chris, and he added the link to the Will of the Ancients site to SEGAbits, so we have ours up there as well. So our empire is slowly
Nice.
building. No, whole idea was to really connect our site, which I see as the most successful general Sega news site. I mean, that's just my opinion. Oh wait, that's also the numbers too. We get more traffic than the other ones. I'm sorry,
Okay.
um, but
Yeah.
I just I know there's always a talk internally with our writers about how should we reach out to other sites, and I always thought it was kind of pointless for us to reach out to other general Sega news sites because we all cover the same stuff. I'm fine with being friends with people, but I don't see very much of a reason to collaborate as much as I'd like to collaborate with fan sites who cover specific franchises or things like localizing games, because that's what I think there's not really any overlap, and it actually just expands the whole kind of community that I really think is far more exciting than just a bunch of news sites reporting on the same things. But yeah, I'm excited for both Segalization and the Will of the Ancients.
I was gonna say, how can people help
Hmm.
with the well, I mean, like with the petitions and stuff? Like right now, it's just petitions, right?
Well,
Yeah, well, right now it's just the petition and our news posts or the editorial things we do. Um, we have floated around a couple of campaigning ideas, and we're still debating, I guess, within ourselves, like how we're gonna do that. But yeah, another thing that would probably help us, I think, is that we do have a forum section up, and we love to just hear feedback from you guys, or like things that you think would be cool about different games and such. So like, yeah, just commenting on our news articles and stuff, or like just saying, or like in like the Valkyria Chronicles section or whatever. I think I made a topic about things someone might want to see on the next Valkyria Chronicles game if it were to happen, or I think I made a topic on the Soccer Wars section about like who the best Soccer Wars character is, and it's Sumire. um, and yeah, so yeah, it's a movement that I think is, or just in my opinion, it's gonna thrive the more that people sort of participate in it. And it's not just, I mean, it's not our own like vanity project or something, but like, ultimately the point is that like the more people can, the more people become a part of it, the more people like notice it and say like, oh, this is what we think and such. Possibly like
Yeah.
it'll sort of strengthen that voice, or like sort of increase that urgency, I suppose, to Sega to say like, hey, I mean, there's still a willing audience out there for a lot of these things that are under our banner. So yeah, I mean, that's where I come from on that.
Maybe I'd like to add to that. I think if you look at the forums and such, you really see a lot of people complain about games not being localized, but there simply wasn't really any real movement. So people complain on the forum, but there really never was. Well, we had a few campaigns here and there, but there wasn't really one movement that really tried to group those campaigns together, and that's what we'd like to do. So basically, of course, we just started basically, so we have our website up and running and such, but we're still going to make an effort, of course, to really get more unique content on our website to really draw more attention basically to the games that we have featured now. I think it's really our goal is really to bring one voice to the call to ask Sega to localize more of their games. That's basically our goal, and of course we still have a lot of work to do. So we hope to really expand our website to bring more content to it and build from there. I think I don't know how it was for SEGAbits, but I imagine that it's all really started as in a similar way. So you end up. I really just wanted to get the website up and running. I think that's already half of the work, but because a lot of fan projects simply don't even get that far. So I think it's good that we're already that we're at this stage at this point.
Well, we definitely like the start that you guys are at. You've made some really great strides in the short amount of time, and we're looking forward to continuing to collaborate with you guys. And this isn't the end of the conversation. We'd definitely like to have you back on the podcast for a future show, especially if news may drop that a game is being localized, or if a new game comes out and you want to talk about it. Draikin, is there anything you wanted to add before we sign off?
I think most has already been said.
Of course.
Certainly, I'd like to thank SEGAbits for approaching us. I think that was a bit of a surprise for us, but definitely a pleasant surprise. So, yeah, I do hope we can contribute to both SEGAbits and, of course, our own website. And I hope that we can reach more Sega fans and deliver great content for the fans out there.
And George, is there anything you wanted to say? First off, I just wanted to say welcome back.
Oh man, it feels good to be back. I guess I actually really missed posting on the site, so like that kind of sucks. Like, cause I mean, I made the site because I like posting on the site, not because I wanted anybody to read my stuff.
Well, the whole idea behind SEGAbits was to make the site that we would want to visit.
Yeah, that's basically the whole point of it. And the whole name was we were going to take bits. What was it? Oh, that we were going to take other aspects of other sites and put it together, like the bits and pieces that we would want. And I think that's where we come with the whole partnership, with other sites. Honestly, when we were making the names, as now that we're 4 years old now, when we started making the names, we had some of the most terrible names. I think we had this guy named Sharky that used to write for us, and he was one of the guys that I told him to come up with a name, and he came up with Sega Vomit. I was like, no, I'm not calling it Sega Vomit, dude. He's like, when you drink late at night and you just vomit and you feel better? I'm like, no, that's not the name of the site.
Wow.
I had to come up with a name, so there we go.
Oh yeah, it definitely does. I think it rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, better than a lot of things.
Better than Sega Vomit, but a little bit.
It's positive connotations. It's not, So, well, I guess from me, George, Draikin, and InTheSky, thank you for listening, and we'll be the Swingin Report show is potentially going to be back sooner than the usual 2 weeks. We're putting on a collectors themed podcast later this week, hopefully with AJ is going to be joining us, and we're also going to be having hopefully the Gaga Man of Sega Memories and the Dreamcast Junkyard. So
All right.
let's all say goodbye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Tell her we'll call her